picture of a site in Sector 50, Noida. We have a fully sufficient waste processing site where all of the waste from these communities is brought and turned into compost. Some of the biodegradable material is fed to worms, and the product is high nutrient wormy compost. This model is easy to replicate and is of low cost. It can be replicated in many towns in a centralized or in a decentralized way.
I wanted to mention a few comments of my thoughts on sustainability, for being EcoWise in sustainability, and what that means for me. I've always kind of looked at humans on the planet as campers. This is a metaphor that little kids can relate to. Adults build houses, but when you're a kid, you have a tree house in the backyard, you have some sort of fort or something, and you're living close to the ground, and you're kind of connected to it in some way. And it's more of an organic process. As you get older, life gets more complicated, you get more sophisticated, and things get in the way of that natural relationship. But overall, we're all using things. We're using materials. We're consuming food. We're collecting, producing, and consuming all around the whole planet. And every culture has a different style of how they do things, and there's different cultural particulars. But we all have the same problems that we share in terms of the ecology of the planet. And the big questions that we're all facing is, are we going to have clean air? Are we going to have clean water? Are we going to have clean earth?
Sound environmental practices and waste management included are an important part of our relationship with. We see Canada as a pristine, and we have a lot of beauty and purity of our landscape, and we really it's very critical for Canadians to adopt practices that are, we don't use EcoWise as much in Canada, I think, as eco-friendly. I think one of the important differences between now and then, there's been a perception leap. Before, items that were made out of recycled material were kind of perceived as second-hand garbage. But now there's some eco-friendly marketing going on, and things that are made of recycled material are desirable, and people are actually willing to pay more for something that is eco-friendly than not. So I think in Canada there's a very, very positive momentum going on in that regard.
Sustainable development is catching up extremely fast in today's world. It's becoming important. People are realizing now that sustainable development is the only way to go, because without that, we don't know where we're going to be 10, 20, 30 years from now. Bioremediation, it's something relatively new that I just came across. It's organic, say, bacteria and enzymes that are transforming things. This is not simply converting or transferring it into another media, but it is actually converting it into something less harmful.
The choking dust and smoke of the cities, horrifying sight of naked hills denuded of greenery, our failure to honor the terms of partnership with other forms of life. How disgusting, really, how disgusting is our mishandling of the environment. Are we here just for breast beating or doomsaying? Are we to leave our successors a scorched planet of advancing deserts, impoverished landscapes, and an ailing environment?
With increase in pollution generating effects of human activities, man has strived to minimize the damaging effects of his activities on the environment by developing technologies to clean up the pollution generated by other technologies, often called end-of-the-pipe technology, and producing technologies which are clean and generate less pollution, called front-of-the-pipe technologies. By using techniques like plant tissue culture, we can create a number of plants for plantation, and even endangered plants can be grown and preserved. By germplasm conservation, we can conserve genetic material of the plants itself.
Protecting the environment is important to us, and understanding environmental aspects surrounding us is critical because this fragile earth deserves a voice. It needs solutions, it needs change, it needs action. Isn't talking trash the most serious and urgent issue facing the contemporary world? Today, we would be deliberating on how do we manage our trash better, and if possible, how to turn it into a resource so that when we end our journey of life, we leave behind beautiful memories for our dear ones. A much more beautiful world than the one we inhabited during our sojourn, and definitely not heaps and heaps of trash and waste.
Sustainability means satisfying development needs of all people without sacrifice of the Earth's capacity to sustain life. This is possible only if our natural resources, on which life primarily depends upon, are maintained for the use by present as well as future generations. But today, the waste generated by us is posing a great threat to our natural resources. We must adopt means of disposal which are eco-friendly to bring about sustainability. This is known as EcoWaste Management, which advocates disposal of waste in a safe manner and also a shift from wasteful use of materials towards an industrial system based on principles of zero waste and clean production. Eco-waste management basically consists of three supporting pillars: reduce, reuse, and recycle. Reduce should be our very first step. Generation of hazardous ecological waste should be avoided. At the community level, the people can also help in reducing generation of unnecessary waste. For example, carrying our own shopping bag while going to the market, which is made of biodegradable materials. Present systems of waste management can also be improved or changed in order to avoid the secondary pollutants produced on treatment of waste. Waste incinerators, for instance, produce a lot of toxic gases on incineration of waste, which is harmful for all living beings. Therefore, waste incinerators should be improved upon to suitably treat the gases produced. The next step should be reuse. We must use all products to their maximum extent. The third step is to recycle waste. Recycling refers to treating waste in a manner so that materials can be recovered and used again. This reduces demand for raw materials since original resources can be recovered, and it also prevents contamination of waste.
Only after the last tree has been cut down, only after the last river has been polluted, only after the last fish has been caught, only then will man realize that money cannot be eaten. World is heading for an environmental disaster, and like the three wise monkeys, we do not want to see, hear, or talk about it. What is even worse is that we often do talk about it, but we do not take any action. The earth, humanity, and civilization have faced many crises, but nature seems to have always absorbed disturbances and maintained a balance. But today, the exponential growth of human activities has created so many problems that even nature cannot handle it now. All these disturbances are caused because of misuse, abuse, and overuse of natural resources by the human beings. One of the most serious threats to our environment is the massive amount of waste we put into the air, water, and soil every year. There is so much of pollution that if it weren't for our lungs, there would be no place to put it all. In industrialized countries, waste is separated into different categories and thrown in different bins. Many developing countries have started using the same concept. The simplest method of waste management is collecting the waste and throwing in a